Sometimes, before we even open our eyes in the morning, something inside us already decides whether the day will be light or heavy. There is a kind of secret wind that blows inside, silent but decisive, as if life were moved first by what cannot be seen. Imagine yourself on the edge of a Japanese stream, where the water runs slowly, so pure that it seems to carry memories old ones. There, between the sound of the current and the damp scent of the moss, a question arises simple and immense. How does one overcome the world without first conquering oneself? It is not a victory of combat, nor of conquest. It's a triumph that happens at the exact point in which we take a deep breath and realize that the greatest adversary is rarely out. It hides in the rush, in the doubt, in the weight that we accumulate without realizing it. Therefore, the ancient Japanese cultivated subtle, almost invisible rituals capable of cleansing the spirit before any external action. They believed that when water touches the skin, it awakens more than refreshes. She remembers. Remember that everything starts within. Visualize the scene. You are in front of a small stone basin. The water rests still, reflecting your face like a liquid mirror. Upon touching its surface, the reflection disappears, as if the world said that no form is definitive. And while the waves spread, you feel that something inside you also rearranges itself, dissolving rigidity's old ones, making space for a new state of presence. It is at that moment that the ritual begins, not with grandiose gestures but with the simple intention of returning to the center. Internal victory does not depend on effort, depends on silence. It is born when we allow our spirit to align with something vaster, so vast like the sky reflected in the water. If you feel like there is something invisible guiding your days, a light force, almost imperceptible but insistent, this video is for you. Here, we will walk together through AI, a path that is not learned with the eyes but with the breath that passes through the chest. And now that you've touched the first drop of this inner ritual, we move on to the next step, one in which silence reveals its true contours. There is a moment, just before dawn, when the world seems suspended between two breaths. The light has not yet touched the leaves, and the wind moves slowly, as if it had just woke up. In this rare interval, silence is not absence. It is presence. It's the essential vibration that precedes any movement, the invisible cradle where every victory human begins. Because winning from within is not a sudden gesture. It's a germination silent, like a seed that breaks the ground without anyone hearing. Imagine a Japanese river in its calmest path. The smooth surface appears immobile, but beneath the flow remains firm, constant, deep. This is how true strength operates. Without show-off, without competing, without rushing. Water doesn't try to be strong. She is strong, precisely because it does not fight against its own nature. And when it touches the stone, it doesn't face it. It surrounds it, contours, gently wears. The stone, rigid, resists. The water, calm, transforms. The same thing happens inside humans. The rigidity we carry in our chests, made of fear, urgency, accumulated thoughts, makes us heavy. We try to control everything, anticipate everything, hold everything. But inner victory does not come from control, arises from disarm. It arises when we let silence dissolve the tensions we carry without perceive. Silence is a kind of portable temple, accessible anywhere, even in the midst of urban noise. A moment's pause is enough for the spirit to hear that has always been there, the center itself. And when we enter this inner space, we notice something curious. Most battles that we fought did not exist outside of us. They were invented storms, waves we created with our own mind. When looking at them calmly, we realize that the wind is no longer blows so hard, that the water no longer threatens to overflow, that the interior can be, yes, a refuge. At this point, silence becomes a master. He teaches without words, just by form, how it reorganizes the world within us. Teaches that the first step to any transformation is about recovering your breath, aligning your body, calming your spirit. Teaches that the victory we seek abroad will never come if it is not established inside first. And if, as you listen to this silence, you notice a slight movement deep within your soul, almost like a breeze passing through a sacred garden, it is a sign that the path has begun to reveal itself. There are times when the soul seems to carry the weight of many seasons. Ancient shadows accumulate on the shoulders, dormant memories awaken without warning, and the heart, for moments, it becomes a cloudy lake. But there is an ancestral gesture, discreet and silent, practiced long before it had a name, the gesture of washing oneself from the inside, a purification that does not. It depends on running water, but on intention. It is not about removing physical impurities, and yes, to make space for the spirit to breathe again. Imagine a Japanese morning covered in fog. Everything seems smoother when mist embraces the world. The mountains hide and at the same time reveal themselves another way. What was clear dissolves, and what was heavy becomes light. So inner purification works. It does not erase what we experience, but it undoes the rigid edges of what hurts us until the pain finds space to transform. Now think about the fine rain that falls on a stone garden. It does not erode anything, just play. It plays softly enough to refresh, but strong enough to renew. When we allow this same gesture to happen in our emotional life, something happens, rearranges. We let old tensions slide to the margins of consciousness, like the water that washes away accumulated dust. Spiritual cleansing does not require effort, just permission. Breathing becomes a powerful key in this process. As you inhale deeply, we feel as if light were passing through our chest. As we exhale, we notice that something falls apart, like a knot that finally finds its own opening point. It's not magic, is return. Return to the state of transparency that has always existed beneath the storm's internal. When we truly purify ourselves, we do not become empty. We become clear, and in clarity we find the courage to follow. Often it is necessary to let the inner rain fall before to take a step forward, because only a light heart can walk firmly. If this idea resonates with you, it is a sign that something inside has already awakened, even if in a small way. Soft, like the first drop that announces a new season. There are movements that begin like this, discreet, almost inaudible, but deeply transformative. And when the spirit begins to cleanse itself, even if slowly, a new type of strength emerges. Not the force that resists, but the force that flows. On certain mornings when the wind passes through a bamboo forest, it is possible to hear a song that doesn't belong to any bird. The bamboo leans, bends, accepts the movement of the breeze without resistance, and therefore remains intact. Beside him, trees, rigid ones, crackle, creak, fight against the same wind that the bamboo only welcomes. There is a deep wisdom in this scene. That which knows how to yield becomes impregnable, while the what hardens breaks faster than you. Think. Life pushes us in unexpected directions, and almost always our first reaction is resist. We create defenses, we tense our shoulders, we build invisible walls within the chest. But the spirit that learns to flow finds another kind of force, a force silent, patient, who doesn't wear herself out trying to fight the inevitable. Water teaches this every day. When touching the stone, it doesn't face it, it just goes around it. And while contour, shape, as it shapes, it transforms. As long as you transform, you win. Now imagine water flowing between ancient rocks. None of them were broken by a sudden blow, all yielded to the continual touch of softness. The true strength. It doesn't need to demonstrate itself, because it already operates deep in time. In the same way, when we allow our insides to be more flexible than rigid, our battles make it lighter. We stop trying to bend the world and start moving with it. In everyday life, this means taking a breath before reacting. Listen before arguing. Observe before deciding. Because rigidity is always born from haste, while wisdom is born from space between one thought and another. It is in this interval that we realize that many of the struggles we have would dissolve on their own if we just stopped feeding them. Bamboo, even in storms, does not try to be stronger than the wind. He just recognizes its nature, flexible, rooted, and available for movement. Maybe win inside be exactly that, knowing when to bend so as not to break, knowing when move forward and when to simply let it go. And interestingly, when we embrace this softness, a new kind of power awakens. No a power of dominance, but of presence, a power that does not intimidate, but inspires. a power that does not conquer by force but opens paths like water that discovers the exact crack where you should go. If you allow this softness to find space in your chest, you will notice that the world does not need to be controlled to be overcome, just understood. There is an old trail that crosses a cedar-covered mountain. Who walks by, she soon realizes that she is not led by her own steps, but by something more subtle, the breath of the earth. Every leaf that falls, every ray of light that passes through the branches, every stone that rests on the ground seems to indicate that the path does not begin on the ground, but within of the one who walks through it. This is also life. No true movement begins out. Everything is born first as a breath, a silent intention, an inner pulse that precedes any gesture. As you follow this imaginary trail, notice how it meanders naturally, without angles, rigid, in no rush to get anywhere air. Nature knows no shortcuts, because I'm afraid of time. We, full of urgency, tend to want to speed up processes, carve directions, control results. And in this excessive effort, we lose something essential: harmony between purpose and spirit. Walking from the inside out means regain that harmony. Align intention, body, and inner flow before any advancement in the world. The morning light teaches us this gently. It does not invade. She insinuates herself. Surge first as a timid glow, then it expands, and only then illuminates what must be seen. From likewise, our inner strength does not need to be abrupt. It can be smooth, gradual, a movement that grows to the rhythm of our sincerity. Modern life, so hurried, tries convince ourselves that we are productivity machines. But there is a point where the soul simply refuses this rhythm. She asks for a break, asks for depth, asks for a return to the essential. When we hear this call, we realize again what really matters. We are driven not by anxiety but by clarity. With each step, the trail ceases to be just walk and become a mirror. It reflects our inner state. If we are scattered, we stumble. If we are present, we move forward naturally. The victory intimacy is born when our steps coincide with our truth. And then, little by little, integration occurs. What we think, feel, and do leaves to be fragmented. We become whole, and the world responds to that wholeness. The life, it starts to flow more lightly, because we are no longer walking against ourselves. There is a moment on this journey when we realize that the path does not open because we insist. It opens because we become able to cross it. And that changes everything. There is a mountain that remains still even when the sky is stormy. Oh, the wind changes. The season changes, the light changes, but it remains. And yet it is not the rigidity that keeps her standing, but the depth of her presence. Such a presence complete that nothing needs to be proven, nothing needs to be sought, nothing needs to face. So it is also the strength that is born within us when we stop living dispersed and begin to exist whole, anchored in the instant. We often believe that power is synonymous with movement, action, achievement. But there is a silent power that reveals itself when we stop the urge to interfere in everything, when we allow the world to move at its own pace, while we remain attentive, firm, available, like the shadow of a cedar, wide, constant, welcoming, and paradoxically, so strong that nothing can replace it. Deep down, most of our wear comes not from what we do, but from what we imagine. Our mind races ahead, trying to control the future, predict threats, accelerate what is not ready. This excess of intention drains the spirit. The presence returns the axis. It teaches us to act only when the action actually arises, not when anxiety demands. It is the art of not wasting energy on premature movements. Think of the completely still water of a small lake. At first glance, it appears inert, but just throw a single grain of sand for perfect circles to form, expanding in all directions. When we are present, any gesture becomes precise. Any word finds the exact moment. Any decision becomes clear. An action stops being forced and starts to emerge naturally. As a reflection of the state interior, presence also protects. It prevents us from being dragged away by external noise, by other people's expectations, by the artificial urgencies of the modern world. When we are really here, the environment stops controlling us. What happens outside loses its power to displace what happens inside. And so, Effortlessly, we become unshakable. Inner victory does not happen when we win many battles, but when we stop unnecessary ones. When we respond to the world with clarity, not with reactivity. When our energy stops spreading in 1,000 directions and starts flowing like a single river. And there is a point in this profound presence when something unexpected happens. The world around him seems to slow down, as if he himself recognizes our new state. There are moments in life when everything seems still, as if the tides have forgotten to return, as if the wind had abandoned the leaves, as if time was waiting for something that we don't know how to name. But suddenly, without warning, the invisible moves. A change subtle happens inside us before the outside world even notices. This is how the cycles work. Silent, deep, inevitable. And whoever learns to trust them, discover that victory is not the result of strength but of alignment. Imagine the tide observed by an ancient fisherman. He knows that there is no point in wishing that the sea rises before the right moment. You know, there's no point in fearing when he backs down. Each movement, however discreet, is part of a greater balance. We, however, tend to suffer in the pauses, to despair in the waits, to long for the turns of the wind. But the wisdom arises when we understand that inner time is no less sacred than inner time. Tidal time. There are cycles in which everything collects. Feelings, ideas, strengths. These are seasons of internal silence in which nothing flourishes. Still, something underground is germinating like seeds that sleep in winter waiting for the right light, when finally emerge not because we pressure them, but because they have matured. Same. In this way, our deepest changes are not born of imposition, but of readiness. Think of the Japanese seasons. Each one reveals a kind of beauty, and none tries to rush the other. Autumn does not force winter, spring does not compete with summer. With each transition, the invisible works in silence, transforming the color of the leaves, fine-tuning the wind, preparing the soil. Our spirit also moves in the same way, imperceptibly, until that one day we realize that we no longer think, feel, or react as we used to. Trust in the process is true delivery. When we don't try to control each detail, we open space for the invisible to operate. It is in this space that life finds path. What opportunities arise, what unexpected doors open. No because we insist, but because we stop blocking the flow. And then comes that rare moment when we notice change happening. Not like explosion, but like smooth displacement, like the first breeze after a long heat. A feeling that says, now the path is ready. And if you feel that something inside you has also started to move, even slightly, just watch. This is how great transformations announce their arrival. When night finally rests on the earth, everything returns to its point of origin. The wind silence, the birds retire, the rivers diminish their singing. And yet none of this is immobility. It's just another kind of movement, deeper, more interior, as if the world breathes softly to remember that even silence has rhythm. So too we finish this ritual, not with an end, but with a replacement of the spirit in its natural place. Along this journey you have walked through calm waters, bamboo groves, trails ancient and inland tides. Each image was just a mirror to something much bigger than happens inside you, because winning from within is not a destination, it is a return. Every silent gesture, every conscious breath, every moment of surrender, you resume the invisible thread that has always guided your steps. And now, when you reach this point, you may realize that nothing you were looking for was really out. Strength, clarity, serenity, direction, everything was born from the same place, from the center where the spirit rests when we stop demanding that it be something else. A inner victory is that, an alignment, a state in which the world can change, but you remain whole like the mountain that observes the seasons without losing its essence. If this walk touched something in you, if any image awakened a fragment asleep, a gentle gesture is necessary. Sign up and keep walking with us along the path of the soul. There is still much to be discovered, much yet to be remembered, because the human spirit is vast, like the sky reflected in the water, and each reflection reveals a new angle of the invisible. And before this light goes out, I leave one last breath, not as an answer but as an invitation. What if what we call destiny is just the whisper of the kami who give us, have they been with you since birth?